So Darkseid versus Vegeta, two very different characters, two very extremely powerful characters. This will be an interesting one. I'll start with Darkseid. Now, Darkseid is pretty much the big bad of the entire DC universe. He is the ruler of Apocalypse and has the goal of enslaving the entire multiverse using the anti-life equation. Now, needless to say, he is extremely powerful. When it comes to his actual power set, if I were to list it off, we would be here all day. He's of course incredibly strong, fast, durable. He can fly, teleport, telekinesis, telepathy, size manipulation, soul manipulation, matter manipulation, and he can even erase things from existence using his Omega beams, which are his incredibly powerful eye beams that can change direction mid-flight. And again, there's a lot more that he can do as well, but that's just kind of the overview of this character to kind of give you an idea of his power level and sort of his archetype of character within DC Comics. We've seen him do some very impressive things. He's fought against the entire Justice League numerous times, absolutely crushing the likes of Green Lantern, beating the crap out of Superman. He's like backhanded Superman. He's knocked him out in just 2 hits before. His Omega beams have devastated the guy. We've also seen him destroy other new gods of the DC universe who are extremely powerful. And he's fought against some of the most powerful people DC has to offer, like the Anti-Monitor, like the Guardians of the Universe. He is one of the most feared beings in all of DC Comics. And the way he operates is a little strange as well, because there are avatars of Darkseid who are like pieces of himself, essentially. They're not as powerful as true Darkseid, but they are very powerful as well. Like an avatar of Darkseid can go toe-to-toe with Superman, whereas true Darkseid is much more powerful, and that's where a lot of these other abilities, right, come into play as well. Like we've seen him enslave countless people, countless worlds, again with the ultimate goal of enslaving the entire multiverse. We've seen him take hits from Superman, who is not holding back, going all out against Darkseid. And even here, we've seen Darkseid get the drop on Superman, his speed even impressing the likes of one of the fastest beings in DC Comics. So we've got this guy who is a natural dictator, super genius, wants to crush the universe under his boot, essentially, who's durable enough to fight against the entire Justice League at once, including a going all-out Superman, fast enough to get the drop on Superman and knock him out in just a couple punches, and with so many other abilities giving him an insane versatility that allows him to be prepared for pretty much any occasion. He's essentially like a walking infinity gauntlet, not just because of his extreme power, but because he can manipulate matter, time, the soul. He can resurrect himself, erase people from existence, and again ranks higher than that of any Justice League member, on par with Guardians of the Universe or the Anti-Monitor. Honestly, we could go over Darkseid feats forever, but I do want to keep it pretty brief here and jump over to Vegeta. Now, Vegeta is probably the number 2 most powerful, protagonist of the Dragon Ball series. He's always been up there pretty high. And we're looking at his Dragon Ball Super version as well, where he currently has his Ultra Ego form, his most powerful form we've seen so far. So let's kind of talk about power scaling and how powerful that form actually is. So we know at the start of Dragon Ball Super, a long time ago now, base form at that point was around universal level of power, if not a little bit more powerful than that. We saw that during Goku's fight against Beerus there at the very beginning, and they've gotten magnitudes and magnitudes more powerful since then, with their Super Saiyan God forms, Super Saiyan Blue forms. Vegeta particularly had his Blue Evolution form, and to scale that was during the Tournament of Power, and that allowed him to overcome Top, who was more powerful than his God of Destruction, or at least he was a candidate for a God of Destruction, which is putting Vegeta on the God of Destruction level before he even gets to his Ultra Ego form, and that level is roughly multi-universal, if not multiversal, in terms of power, which means he's extremely fast, extremely strong. He's a very skilled martial artist as well, which we've seen countless times throughout the series. His combat speed and intelligence is off the charts, and he has a number of different beam attacks that he can throw out from his Gallic gun, Final Flash, whatever it may be. He's got many, many very powerful ranged attacks, and he has the durability to be taking hits from God of Destruction tier characters. After this, he begins training more with Beerus, who is their universe's God of Destruction and the most powerful God of Destruction, and he starts to learn the ways of destruction, and that's how he unlocks his Ultra Ego form, which is channeling destruction energy. And here he's tapping into that power that we see Beerus use quite often like whenever he taps his finger and splits a planet in half, he's using his destruction energy. And that's what Vegeta is tapping into here, the ability to just purely destroy. And this is where the Hakai technique comes from that we saw Goku use that one time, where you can erase somebody from existence. He also has a move called Forced Spirit Fission, where he can separate an energy fusion. And he has new, more powerful ranged attacks like his Beerus Ball, his giant ball of destruction that he can cast out as well. Also, not only does this Ultra Ego form give him all these new abilities, but it makes him, of course, much stronger, much faster, much more durable, and the added benefit where the more damage he takes in battle, the higher his fighting spirit goes and the more powerful he gets. And we saw this used against Granola, we saw this used against Moro as well, and we do know that this power is rivaling that of Goku's Ultra Instinct. So two very different characters with two different types of power sets. What would happen if they were to fight? Well, if we are to compare stats here, strength-wise, I think it's probably Darkseid with his ability to easily overpower and humiliate the likes of Superman. Speed-wise, I will probably give it to Vegeta. We have seen some impressive things from Darkseid, like getting the drop on Superman, like fighting against the Flash and other very fast and powerful DC Comics characters. But from Vegeta, you see consistent combat speed higher than anything that we've seen from Darkseid. Durability-wise, it's probably Darkseid, though I think this one is closer, because not only is Vegeta's durability very high, but in Ultra Ego, his durability is even higher, and that feeds into his ability. It feeds into his strength. Though there is a limit, and his body can give out on him, which we've seen, I think consistently we've seen Darkseid have a higher level of durability. When it comes to energy projection, I think Vegeta has a higher power output when it comes to his energy. However, Darkseid 1, his Omega Beams are extremely powerful and could probably cut through one of Vegeta's blasts, totally believe that. But then also Darkseid can absorb and manipulate energy as well, so I'm not sure how a Ki Blast would square up against him and his abilities there. So that one is kind of close. And then each of them, I think, has a distinct advantage over the other. Vegeta, I think his combat skill gives him a clear advantage over Darkseid. His combat speed and skill will be a major advantage for him. But Darkseid just has such a versatility to him that he has a completely different type of advantage than Vegeta, because he can just do so much more. He has so many more abilities at his disposal. So imagine the fight goes something like this. Vegeta starts out in his base form. He's fighting against an avatar of Darkseid. He doesn't have the damage to put the avatar down. He's getting beat up a little bit. He powers up to, say, Super Saiyan Blue. At that point, he's more than enough to handle this avatar, and then true Darkseid must come and face Vegeta himself. At this point, up close, Vegeta has the advantage, wailing on Darkseid, doing damage but not putting him down necessarily, and Darkseid may have a slightly difficult time landing all his hits on Vegeta, but I definitely think that he is tagging him as well. He shoots his Omega Beams, Vegeta responds with his own blast, and I do think that the Omega Beams would cut through his blast and then hit Vegeta, doing a ton of damage to him. A follow-up Omega Beam attack, Vegeta tries to escape it, but even the likes of the Flash have a difficult time dodging those, so I'm not sure if he would be able to dodge it or not given his extreme speed. He goes into full Ultra Ego form, and the two are more on par than ever before. Vegeta's getting a little reckless, he flies in there, he's doing big damage, he's smacking Darkseid around, and then finally Darkseid stops playing. At this point, it could go one of two ways. I think that, on the one hand, you could have Vegeta, he's in there, he's fighting, Darkseid's fighting back, he can hit extremely hard, again, easily putting down the likes of Superman, shattering Green Lantern constructs, and his Omega Beams are extremely powerful, to where I could see Vegeta tanking those and getting stronger, but then his body eventually giving out, giving Darkseid the victory. I could see Darkseid using some of his other abilities, whether it's energy manipulation or matter manipulation, time, the soul, anything like that, to insta-wipe the likes of Vegeta, who doesn't really have defense against anything like that. However, I will say that is not how Darkseid typically fights, so I will say that's probably unlikely to happen. And then lastly, I could see Vegeta winning, because we've seen Superman beat Darkseid before, right? And I do think that Ultra Ego Vegeta is more powerful than pretty much any version of Superman that we've seen, outside of, the exceptions. So I do see a world where Vegeta can put out enough damage to put Darkseid down. But what is more likely to have happen? And just based on what we've seen from Ultra Ego and what we've seen from Darkseid, and just knowing Vegeta as a character, I do think that Darkseid would win, and I do think that Vegeta's Ultra Ego would give out before he is able to win. Because Darkseid is such an impressive character, he has so many things going for him, and his feats are honestly insane, being one of the most powerful DC characters, consistently beating the other most powerful DC heroes. I don't think that Ultra Ego, even though it is so powerful, I don't think that's giving him a definite or quick victory against Darkseid. Darkseid's definitely hanging in the fight, and with his versatility and everything that he has at his disposal and Vegeta's reckless nature, I do think that he would be putting enough damage on Vegeta to make his body wear out of his form. Because look, Darkseid is main character energy. This is a main boss. Vegeta has still yet to defeat a main boss, and I don't think it's going to start now. I think you'll need somebody a little bit more powerful in order to take out Darkseid. Though, it is close, right? I see a world where both could win. I think that's 6, 7 out of 10 times Darkseid's going to win, but Vegeta definitely can. But it's not up to me to decide. You all get to go vote. Head over to the communities page on my YouTube channel. Vote for who you want to win, who you want to advance in the bracket. The winner of this fight will fight against the previous match's winner. So go vote and let me know who you think would win in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next one.